I'm Shawn.
And I'm Mike, and you're listening to
Shawn and Mike Take a Hike. Welcome to another episode of Shawn and Mike Take a Hike. What are we talking about today, Mike?
Today we could talk about day hikes instead of just our typical overnighters, backpacking in a sense, more or less just hiking.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, we talk quite a bit on this podcast about backpacking, even though it is Shawn and Mike Take a Hike.
Take a hike, right?
So, yeah, let's talk about day hikes. I mean, I love day hikes, so...
That's where you and I got our start, as in our initial plan was the Porcupine Mountain, but to prepare for that, we did a lot of day hikes to see if we actually even like being out on the trail. You know, like we had a spot set up or, two trucks in different locations and walk from one to the other. Some of us may have left the keys in the wrong truck, but yeah, so I mean, the difference, and I think we covered this on some of our terminology things, but the difference between a day hike and backpacking is more or less a I'm gonna get this wrong, a straight through or a loop, but not all like it's not completed in one day. There's overnight involved, setting up camp, multiple meals.
Well, and I always think of it like just from like a gear standpoint, like backpacking for me anyway is more like you have to take stuff with you. Like you are doing some sort of trip that requires you to take gear, requires you to take stuff, requires you to take cooking equipment, requires you to take food, requires you to take a change of clothes, like I just feel like there is more stuff involved in like a backpacking versus a hiking trip, specifically a day hike. Like a day hike pretty much by definition is done in a single day.
Right. I mean, it could be all day, but it's still done in a single day.
It could be all day, for sure. Like, it could be, like, sun up to sundown, or, like, even into the dark. Could be.
Yeah.
But...
And you could still take stuff. You're not necessarily taking shelter. You're not taking sleeping bag, things like that. You could still take the camp stove if you want to sit outside and have a dehydrated meal, an MRE or whatever.
For sure, there is still stuff involved in a day hike. I mean, unless you're going for a real short one. But, like, for, like, a real good day hike, there is still stuff involved.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, like, to the level of... You and I talked on a previous episode about, like, before we ever started getting into this, and you kind of mentioned it even at the top of this episode. We went out and practiced for a backpacking trip, right? Like, I don't feel like you necessarily need to practice for a day hike. A day hike is a much more accessible way to go out and explore the trails, get out into nature, see some cool stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to, I mean, obviously, you could technically just take a JanSport backpack if you wanted to, like you don't have to get a giant 65-liter backpack that fits everything. You could just take whatever backpack or pack you have laying around the house, a cinch sack or whatever, and put whatever you're going to need, your snacks, your water, all that kind of stuff, and go. It's a much more relaxed version of enjoying nature.
I think that's a great way to say it. A much more relaxed way, way less intense, way less prep work involved, way less planning involved, like all the things. It is like way easier to just like one day wake up and be like, you know what? I want to go for a hike. Let's go do that.
Right. So where do you want to start with this one? I know I introduced the episode, but this really was your choice.
Right.
So where do you want to start with this one?
So let's because we kind of already touched on gear. Let's start with like gear, right? Because you and I talk quite a bit about what gear we have for backpacking, what gear we take, what gear we recommend. A lot of that discussion that you and I have had on every episode leading up to this it really is geared towards a backpacking trip
Right.
and not so much to a hiking trip, especially a day hike type
A
of
day,
trip.
yeah.
So let's talk about like what the gear differences would be for like
Okay.
essential things that I think everybody should take on a day hike. So, and when I'm like thinking about gear for this, I'm not just talking about like a half a mile walk in the woods, right? Like I'm talking like you're going to be out there for a few hours. You're going to go a decent distance. You're going to
Right.
want more than just a water bottle, right? Where if
Right.
you're just
Yep.
hiking, if you're just, pulling off to the side of the road and walking a half mile to a scenic overlook or something, you can probably grab your water bottle, walk there and walk back. No prep needed, no gear needed. But when
Right.
I'm thinking a day hike, I'm thinking multiple miles, multiple hours. You're going to be out there for a bit, right?
Yeah.
So the very first thing that I would recommend, like obviously I've kind of already mentioned it, but like some sort of water container.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is that a water bottle? Is it going to be a water bladder? Either one, both, some sort of water. You're going to want to make sure, heaven forbid you take a wrong turn while you're out there and you wind up being out there a little bit longer than you want. You're going to want some water. You need to stay hydrated.
Yep.
Water makes everything run. So
Right.
take some water.
Well, and to piggyback on that, I would say, depending on the length or the plan, is to take a some sort of a filter to refill at a water source. I mean, you're not always gonna have a water source necessarily for your day hikes. Probably most part you're gonna run across a river out in the woods somewhere around there, but
Unless you're in the desert,
unless
and
you're in the
then maybe
desert,
not so much.
right? But plan on trying to figure out how to refill your water if you're going for 3, 6 miles, 12 miles, things like that. And I mean, the amount of water you take, like you said, if you're just doing the little half-mile jaunt to see a waterfall or whatever, fine. You just take your water bottle. You don't really need to take a filter or anything like
Right.
that. But if you're planning a 6 to 12 mile loop or out and back, then you probably want to take 1 to 2 liters and maybe a way to refill that 1 to 2 liters.
Yeah, I would think like at the very least, even if you don't want to take like a full filter system, right? Like
Yeah.
let's say you don't want to take a whole thing to be able to filter water and all that. You don't think you're going to need it. You think you're carrying enough water. I don't think it would hurt, and this is my official recommendation, at least take your iodine tabs or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can at least treat the water that you come across
Yeah.
if you need it. They're super lightweight. You can throw them in a bag. Like they're pretty much idiot proof.
Or how about this? You and I both have them, but we usually end up leaving the filters at home, which is probably a bad idea. But we have Life straw water bottles.
I think
You-
that's a great option. I think that yes. Okay,
so
but
some kind
hear
of
me
filtered
out.
water bottle.
Filter water bottle, great idea. Yes. I mean, the answer to that is yes. I think that's a great idea. There's a cost to get that. So, like, if you
There,
don't want to
yes.
do like the whole big cost of that, when you don't,
Yeah.
is this going to be like a one-off day trip that you're taking with somebody?
Fair.
If you're not trying to invest in gear, right?
Right. Okay.
Those iodine tabs are cheap, like
Yeah.
cheap. Get a couple of them, throw them in your pack. Worst case scenario, you have them. You can treat the water. You won't get sick from whatever water you're getting.
Right. Yeah.
It might still be full of debris. It might still be not like great water, but it's not going to make you sick.
You, you just run them through your sock, and then you get rid of the debris.
Which is an option. I mean, that is something you could theoretically do. I still think you're going to want to treat the water.
Right.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
you and I talked because we were going to maybe do day hikes this summer on our like larger trip.
Yep.
If you are a backpacker and you have, like Mike and I have a gravity bag that we use to filter water with.
Right.
That thing, when there is no water in that gravity bag, it takes up no room and it weighs nothing. Like, we are
Right.
going to take that on day hikes if Mike and I
Oh,
go
for
on day
sure.
hikes. But we already own that. Like, we bought that as part of like a larger plan. So that's not a cost thing that it's going to cost us anything because we already have the cost is gone already.
Right.
If you don't have one of those and you don't have a Life Straw filtering water bottle, or Life Straw is not a sponsor. I mean, that just happens to be the brand that Mike and I have.
Right. There's several other
There's
options,
several
but
other
yeah.
options out there at various different price points, but they are a little bit pricier than your iodine tabs. So I
Mhm.
think it would be real easy. Throw a couple iodine tabs in your pocket, you're good to go.
Well,
Just
and
in
we
case.
talked about it in our water episode, but we take iodine tablets with us as a backup in case our filter fails.
Right.
So that's something to be said as well.
Right.
Um, and I guess to piggyback on that too is going to be depending on what type of water reservoir or canister of the water system
Water
vessel.
vessel.
There you go. There's the word. Um, Depending on that is going to depend on the size of pack you want to take for a day hike. Like I said, you could take a JanSport backpack. Those have some kind of a water bottle. JanSport's not a sponsor, obviously, but that's just the brand that I keep thinking of when I think of just your daily backpacks.
Right.
Um, but like they have something, but most like if you're a backpacker, most backpacks come with some kind of a day pack with them. So if you get to camp and want to do a day hike, then you have a smaller pack to take with you. But it still has enough room for a 2 liter or 1 liter or 2 liter bladder with a straw, so you can just drink water while you're going. So if you're just going for a mile, 2 miles, water bottle's fine, whatever, sure. But if you need more, then the day pack options are going to be there too. Like what I was seeing is a recommended 10 to 30 liter. I think 30 liters is a bit
I
much.
feel like 30 liters is a bit much. I kept seeing that guideline too. I'll be honest, I think
Yeah,
10 liter is a bit much.
probably too much. Like you could really probably a 5 liter because I mean, if you think about it, you're taking 2 liters of water. The rest of that is just going to be snacks and a first aid kit. Let's get into the I guess the rest
I
of
mean,
what you
let's
should
okay, so
take.
let's get into that though. So like let's talk about day packs though. So like
Yeah,
yes, you and I happen to have a day pack because a day pack came with our backpacking backpack. It had a day
right.
pack insert that is removable. You and I happen to have that.
Yep.
If you don't have that, like Mike's saying, use a book bag backpack type thing,
Yeah,
JanSport or whatever brand you've got. Or you and I, with our spouses, just went for a day hike in Arizona.
with syntax.
We threw a cinch sack on our back, like
So, and somebody just had like a fan pack or whatever too.
right,
Like
right.
that's an
So I mean,
option.
like you don't need to get like super fancy about it. Take
Right.
something. If you want to have some cargo pants, fill your cargo pants up. Like you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I don't think that's the best thing to use for hiking, just because like stuff knocking around knee level is not always so
Right.
great when you're walking.
That's what I always hate.
But, like if that's what you got and that's what you want to go with,
Yep.
fill your pockets and go that way. Like it's
Wear your purse pants.
wear your purse pants, exactly. But if you have a day pack, they're
Yeah.
usually much cheaper than a backpacking backpack because there ain't much to them. It's a couple
Yeah.
of straps and a sack. Like you
Yeah.
use whatever you've got laying around the house, it will be
If
fine.
you don't
Like
want to invest in a whole lot, yeah, for
for
sure.
sure. And
Yep.
I saw the same guideline you did, 10 liter to 30 liter. It's pretty loosey goosey. Like,
Sure.
like you said, like my husband took a fanny pack and it had almost everything in it that he needed in his fanny pack. So,
Right.
you don't need to get super fancy about it.
Yeah. That's what's next on your list? Because
Well,
I've
so you
been
kind of mentioned the next thing,
running
which
down
is like a
mine.
fairly important one, but like I would take, even if you're just going for like a quick little jaunt in the woods, at least a basic emergency kit,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it don't have to be as in depth as the one that we take on our backpacking trips,
Right.
but
Something that'll treat some blisters or
something that'll treat some blisters. If you start getting some like thigh chafing or whatever, wouldn't
yep.
hurt to throw some diaper cream in there just in case. Couple of
Hmm.
band-aids because band-aids are always good. Um, I would throw your whistle in, like, as part of your emergency kit. Like,
Absolutely.
I feel like the whistle is a good thing to take all the time. I feel like a multi-tool is good for pretty much everything. Like, I would throw, if
Yeah.
you don't carry that in your pocket all the time, I'd throw that in your pack or your fanny
Hmm.
pack or whatever. Um, maybe, maybe some Benadryl or some sort of like,
Yeah.
allergy.
I have like insect sting wipe or insect bite wipes or
I think
whatever. But
that's
yeah,
not a terrible
that
thing
yep,
to have in it, but like a very basic, like
yep,
one or two of each. You don't need
yep.
a package of each of them, like just some
Right.
like very basic.
You're gonna be gone for a few hours, 6 hours, 12 at most.
Right,
Like you're not gonna be gone for the whole day, and then you're not gonna get back to your other stuff at some point.
right, right.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if it's my turn to go again, but I'm going to go
Go.
again
Yeah. Go
anyway.
ahead.
Like my next thing that I'm going to want in there for sure, whether you're carrying a backpack or a fanny pack or whatever, I'm going to encompass everything into navigation stuff.
Yep.
So, is that a map? Is that a compass? Is it your GPS? Like, whatever your thing
Whatever's gonna tell you
is,
how to get to where you're going,
get you where you're
and
going
you know
and
how
get
to
you
keep
back.
and your phone had, I mean, most phones have a compass these days. Our Apple Watches have a compass these days. It's never hurts to have just an analog, just old, tried and true compass in
Right.
case your battery's dying, anything like that. They weigh nothing. The one little thing I have weighs nothing, just dangles on my pack,
They weigh
so you know
nothing.
what direction you're headed.
I mean, some freaking multi tools have a little compass built right into them.
Yeah,
A little plastic
yeah.
cheap. You don't need anything like
The 99 centers
the
at
little
Cabela's or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like get one off the clearance rack. It don't have to be anything super fancy. As long
Hmm.
as it works and points north, you're good to go. Like I mean, as long as it can help you navigate, it don't need to be
Yeah.
super fancy. Like some sort of so all of that. I'm gonna lump all of that into like navigation stuff. The other thing that I would really recommend having, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this one unless you want to get deep in the weeds in it, but like we've talked about bug protection quite a bit over the last few episodes.
Yeah.
You're still going to be out in nature. Like have your bug
Well, yeah,
protection
for
stuff.
sure.
Like take some bug spray. Depending on the type of year or where you're going, maybe take your bug net.
Yeah.
Like
That's I was gonna say, like, you know where you're going, do your own research. Of
it's been a couple since we fit that one in.
yeah, but do your research of like where you're going, the time of year. Like w- we where you and I do our long trip is in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but we're spreading out. Like we started in the far west, and now we're working
Mm-hmm.
our way, into different areas. Are the black flies bad?
Mm-hmm.
Is the state bird of the mosquito gonna take us away? Like, what's gonna happen? So just prepare. Fortunately, we haven't been too bothered with bugs, but well, I guess were the days where we were both netted up with our bug nets. So,
I know because of the
um,
stupid little gnats, which
yeah. So definitely take that kind of stuff. Even you're, I'm just going for a half mile. It'd be a very miserable half mile if you don't have enough to
heck yeah,
like
it
keep
would.
the critters away. You know.
Well, and again, your bug net weighs nothing, folds up into
Yep.
like basically nothing. I mean, bug spray can be a little bit cumbersome depending on the type you get, but like Mike has this one. What's that little balm that you have?
But God, I don't even remember the name. I'm a sucker for Facebook finds. The just the ads that pop up. I'm a sucker for a gimmick, and I'm like, oh, that would be great. And I found it, and it works great. It's this little cream that you put on. You don't need a lot, and it just rubs right
and
into your
it's
skin. And yeah, it's a
and it's
tiny.
in
If
tiny little tin, screw on little top, chuck it in. I mean, it would fit in
yeah,
your pocket if you wanted it in your pocket. You don't have to
yeah,
carry a
like
big
because
old.
we've always talked. We take duct tape for ticks and fire
Yep.
starter and other duct tape needs. It fits right in the hole of the duct tape, so like it
Right.
doesn't take up any extra space than the duct tape.
It
So
literally would fit in your pocket. Like if you just wanted to
yeah,
drop it in
yeah,
your
for
pocket
sure.
and carry it in your pocket. You don't have to take a big old canister
Hmm.
of off or whatever. Like you can just take a little something
If
like
I
that.
find that, if I find that I think I originally got it off the Facebook thing, but I think it's available on Amazon, and we can put it on our site and link it to
Oh,
this
perfect.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And then kind of in conjunction with that, because in my head, they're the same but different. Um, Sunscreen,
Yep.
hat, like any of that sort of like stuff that you need.
Yes, we have mentioned in other episodes that we're in the woods. You don't really need sunscreen. We barely ever pack that kind of stuff. But if you are planning day hikes, you're going to more scenic things that are maybe have a parking lot closer by,
Hmm.
and so therefore trees might be a little bit spread apart and everything. So you're going to be more at risk of sun exposure. So,
Well, and that's going to be a do your own research thing, right? I mean,
well, yeah,
so like
absolutely.
if you're going to be out in the sun, sunscreen is a good thing. If you're going to be in the woods the whole time, okay, maybe you don't need to worry about it so much. But you know, figure out what type of trail are you going on. You don't
Yeah.
need to do as extensive of research as Mike and I like to harp on that we do all the time. Like if you're just going on a day hike, it's just a day hike. It's not that
Right.
serious. But still check out the trail that you're going on. See what the conditions are going to be like. See what you're getting into. Know before you go. All that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and another thing I guess to piggyback on do your own research too is when you're well, let's skip that because that we're getting more into your prep. We're
Okay.
not to the preparedness yet. Um,
Well, I got a good segue thing then. Unless you got more gear.
well, the gear that I was gonna take or say is I kind of mentioned it before, but like snacks.
That's where I was
Bring
going. That's exactly my
okay,
segue
yeah.
thing.
Bring something to refuel, especially if you're going multiple miles.
Yes.
Take a break, sit down, refill your water, do whatever, and refuel something high protein, high energy
What a great
foods.
time to test out your homemade trail mix making skills. Mike and I love trail mix. We had a whole episode per my request about trail mix. What a great time to try making your own trail mix.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And the sad thing is, if you're making your own and you're just doing a day hike, it makes a lot if you do it right.
Oh no, I have trail mix when I get home that I can enjoy.
Fair,
Oh, I'm
okay.
so sad about
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, really, I mean, throw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in your pack, or throw a couple of granola bars in there, or
That would be the perfect time to try out because we've never done the smush sandwiches or
we
smash
we
whatever
still
they're
haven't
called.
done the smushed PB and J.
Yep.
So that would be a great time to do something like that,
Yep.
or realistically, throw an apple and a banana in your pack,
If you're
or
into that sort of thing.
like whatever your thing is, but take
Yeah.
something.
To refuel.
You're gonna get the munchies when you're out on the trail because like burning all those calories makes you get the munchies.
Hmm.
So take something to just like give yourself a little pick me up. Again, depending on how far you're going. If you're just going
Right.
like a half mile out, half mile back, maybe you don't need snacks. If you're going for multiple hours, you might want a snack.
Right. Whether it's protein bar, whether it's
Right,
your trail mix, whatever. Yeah. Just something that will bring you back because nobody wants to be out there starving.
right.
And then just to throw this in there before we move on to the how to plan is if you're taking food and things like that, bring a garbage bag so you
Oh,
can
good
take it out
call.
with you.
Yeah.
Don't leave it out
Yes.
there.
Yes. Leave no trace still applies even if it's just
And
a day
that,
hike.
yes.
Please take your trash with you.
So, but yeah, so okay, so let's what I was gonna mention about like how to plan and things like that. I mean, obviously, find out the area that you're going to be going on. Is it a 3 mile loop? Do your research, know how far your trail is or where you're
Hmm.
going to, all that kind of stuff. That will also help you determine what kind of footwear you need. Do you
Hmm.
need just some trail runners? Do you need just your everyday sneakers? Do you
Hmm.
need to get some high top or mid height boots that will
Hmm.
have more ankle support and more grip? What are you going to need? What are the ratings on this trail? Is it a difficult? Is it an easy? What is it? So
Yep,
that makes a difference. Distance isn't everything. It's also elevation gain and the difficulty of the trail.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
prepare. look into that. All Trails is free. There's so many different free apps out there where you can look into it. Hell, you can even look at Google Maps and just look and see what the tree canopy looks like. You can kind of get a terrain level of that, but
Or, does where you're going, do they have a website? Do they have a
well, right,
Facebook
yeah,
group? Do they have, like, is there, resources through the DNR? Is there, like, something
yeah,
that, explains that we had a whole episode on trail difficulty ratings. So, like,
hmm,
are the trails rated? What are the difficulty levels?
yeah,
What are you getting into? Like, what sort of information like that? And again, with a day hike, you don't have to get quite as intense about the whole thing. But I do think prepping and understanding what you're getting into is a good thing instead of just like blindly getting into something that you don't know anything about.
yeah, yeah. I am curious to find out if these day hikes are uphill both ways, because a lot of our hikes seem to be uphill both ways.
Yeah, I feel like they would feel like less uphill on both ways because you're not carrying quite so much on your back all
True.
the
Yeah, there. I guess there
time.
is that. um, but yeah, that I guess that on my how to plan a day hike comes into like to pick the right trail. We kind of just covered
Yep.
that bullet point under mine is how to do that.
Okay, so then I'm going to kind of piggyback off your footwear one,
Okay.
and because we're kind of talking about prep, right? Like how to
Right.
prep for it being out there. So you and I talk all the time about knowing the weather before you go.
Oh yeah, that was my next bullet point.
Look up the weather before you go. Like, what do you need as far as clothing goes? Do you need to dress in layers? Do you need what time of year is it? Is it during hunting season? Should you be wearing orange?
Right.
Like what is the clothing that you feel like you're gonna need? And if it's like one of those times a year, like we just had our episode about like hiking in the springtime, right? Are you hiking in the springtime where it's cold when you're starting out, then it gets hot in the middle of the day, and then maybe it's going to get chilly?
Then
So do
cools
you need
back
to
off. Yeah.
really plan for your like layering that you have? Um, Again, you don't need to get quite as intense about it as you would for
Right.
like a multi-day trip, but take a look at the weather, dress accordingly.
Yeah. Is it gonna be a little? Is it gonna be rainy, but it's not bad enough to where you're gonna cancel your trip and everything, but it might be a little slick. Do I bring my trekking poles? Do I, all that kind of stuff? You like, yeah, pay attention to the forecast and know what you're. They're never 100% accurate, but know what you should be getting into.
Right.
Uh,
What else? What else as far as prepping goes or planning goes, did you want to touch
the
on?
one thing that we always like to say is tell someone where you're going, even if it's just a day hike, anything like that. Make sure somebody knows your whereabouts, when you're expected to be back, things of that nature.
Yep.
That way, if you're not where back when you're supposed to be, they can alert somebody because we all know and we all hear the horror stories of people going missing or falling or whatever.
Yep.
So we don't want
The
that to be any of us.
So I would for sure, I mean, realistically, anytime you are going out in the woods, I would tell
Well,
somebody
yeah,
where your
tell
plan
somebody.
is and when you're going to be back. And, if you're going to be in an area where there's cell phone coverage, maybe share your location if you have a trusted person you can do that with. Um, the other thing that I would recommend people do is listen to our episode about getting unlost.
Yes.
Especially if you are still a beginner, maybe this is your first time trying out
Hmm.
a day hike, because like a day hike is a very great way to try this out to see if this is something you would like to get into as far as backpacking and stuff goes. So, I would recommend listening to our episode about getting unlost in case you take a wrong turn or get disoriented, or we talked in that episode about how easy it is to think that this is the trail, but it's not really the trail, and then you wind up
Right.
not on the trail, and what do you do? So whether it is through our episode about that or just your own research on the internet, learn what to do if you find yourself in an area where you're not where you thought you would be.
Yes.
And that kind of goes back to like having the map and the compass and all that sort of stuff too as part of the gear, all tying it together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would mention is just know your limits of what you're capable of. If
Yep.
you are brand new to this, have never done it before, and the trail you're looking at, yeah, it might take you to like the waterfall you've always wanted to see.
Hmm.
If it's an expert level or a difficult level trail, maybe that's a few hikes in before you get your feet wet and like know your limits, what you can and cannot handle. Like
Right.
everybody wants to say they can do a 2 mile uphill both ways trail, but you just never know if that's if once you get out there you don't know, or until you
Well,
get out there you don't know. Yeah,
for sure, until you get out there, you don't necessarily know. Because, yes, walking in the woods is different than walking on a sidewalk, right?
absolutely.
Like it's total different muscles you're going to be using, different fitness level required. But a day hike is a great way to test that too. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
you
Yeah, sure.
know, like plan a shorter day hike, see
Hmm.
how it goes. If that one goes really well, then maybe plan a little bit longer of a one, see how that goes.
Yeah.
But this is a great way to test your fitness level without 40 or 50 pounds on your back
Hmm.
and with much less of like a long-term commitment, like
Yeah.
like you were just talking about footwear. Okay, this is a great way to break in your footwear. And if this is the first time you're wearing these hiking boots, are you going to get a blister a quarter mile in? And you
Hmm.
don't want to commit to like a 5 day thing with blisters all over your feet? It's a great way to
Right.
test that, and break in that gear and test how your gear is doing. Not
Yeah.
even just you, but like how does your gear hold up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our first few day hikes were with our full 65-liter packs and we filled them up. Like we were preparing for a larger trip, but that's another thing that the day hikes are great for is just preparing for your bigger trip. So yeah, you might look silly walking through St. Ignace, Michigan, like we did because we were on the North Country Trail, didn't realize it went right through town. We got our big 65-liter packs on walking through town. So um yeah, it's but it is a great way to break in all of your gear if you are prepping for something bigger too. So
Well, and I think another thing that I don't think we talk about very much, but one thing that I do really like about those day hikes that you and I did when we first got started,
mhm.
I think it not only builds your physical endurance, I think it also, at least for me, I'll speak for myself on this, it mentally prepared me for what we were getting into in a way
Yeah.
that I didn't anticipate needing to mentally prepare for. Like, you hear all the time, it's like, especially like runners and stuff will always say, like,
Hmm.
it's mind
The
over, how do people say that? Like it's
mind over
your
matter.
your your mind is going to quit before your body quits, right? Like
Yes.
you hear that quite a bit, especially in like the running community and stuff. And I think that's true with backpacking too. Like I know Mike makes fun of me because like I hit a wall right around the 6 mile mark
Yeah.
mentally. Like I'm
Yeah.
ready to be done. Like I'm done walking. I don't want to be carrying this pack anymore. I physically could keep going, but like I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like my mind, so like getting those day hikes in, I think helps you understand what your mentality is going to be if you ever do want to move
Well,
from just day hikes into longer term backpacking.
yeah, and well, and that comes into a good point too. Of we mentioned know your limits and everything, and that's not just physical limits; that's your mental limits too.
Yeah,
Like you said, if you're mentally not in it, then you could make a mistake that ends up getting you injured or
yeah,
lost
yeah,
or something like that. So know those limits, so then you are prepared to say, when I'm planning a longer trip or a farther day hike or whatever, then I know this is where I'd like to stop at,
yeah.
so I either am setting up camp there or I need to cut that trip in half and then turn around and go back to the car. Something along
Or
those lines.
or even just understanding like,
Or take a
okay,
break.
that's exactly where I was
Yeah.
going. Like learning where, okay, let's say 2 miles is my wall, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
after 2 miles, I'm ready to quote unquote be done. But if I stop for a half hour, am I ready to keep going then? And then that'll help you understand when you're planning a longer trip, how many miles realistically do you think you can go in a day? And how many hours is it going to take you to do that? Because if you
Yeah.
need to stop every 2 miles and then maybe you stop for an hour, take in the
Right.
scenery, have a snack and all that sort of stuff, well, then you'll know to base your time off that when you're planning your longer trips.
Well, you and I have talked about being better about that too. Is like we don't take enough breaks.
We for sure don't take enough breaks. For sure we don't.
So that, and then when we get to that 6 miles, we're like you've been at the I'm done, I want to be done, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, or you're I need to take a break, I'm taking my pack off, we're gonna sit here for 20 minutes, half hour, or whatever. And I've also you've said I'm gonna sit down, take my pack off, and I'll sit there with my pack on because I'm like, If I take this pack off, I'm not putting it back on." So
Right. Right.
we've gotten to that we've both gotten to our mental breaking points of that kind of thing. So there are times where like I can put the pack on so many times in one day. So
Yeah.
um but that's where like we talked about is if we get dropped off somewhere or we park somewhere and hike in and then set up camp and then we're there for a night or two, we'll get to cover more ground and probably see things we normally wouldn't want to carry our packs to. So
Yeah, I know. I think we're gonna try that this year,
I think
doing
so.
like I'm gonna call it setting up like base camp, right? Like we're gonna hike
Hmm.
into a base camp, and then we're gonna take like day hikes out and away, but then returning to that same camp spot.
Whether it's a loop or an out and back to a scenic overlook or
Right.
something, yeah.
Yeah, because we haven't tried that type of backpacking yet. I feel like we should try it and see if we like it or don't like it.
Right. I mean, this is year 5. I'd say it's probably time.
I know.
So, but I mean, day hikes are no different than backpacking, other than it's not overnight and you get to carry less gear, less weight to the point where you might be able to go a little bit farther or see things like our day hikes in Arizona. I don't think we would have gone to that, what was it, Devil's Bridge or whatever,
Hmm.
if we had 40 pounds on our back.
Oh, for
I
sure we
don't,
wouldn't have. No,
wouldn't
we
have
for
been
sure would
climbing up
not have
them
done that.
rocks and all that stuff.
No.
So there are things you will get to do and see just by doing a day hunt
Well,
that
and
you
that's the
wouldn't
thing.
in backpacking.
Like for my money, like your day hikes, they're easier to plan, like we said multiple times already. Like you can almost pick up and just go. Like there's a little bit of
Yeah.
like looking
Yeah.
ahead,
Little
but like
prep.
you can just like go do it. It's less physically demanding. You're not carrying as much
Hmm.
stuff on your back. There's lower cost to get into
Yep.
it. Like you don't need to buy all of the things. You don't need to buy some other things. You don't need to buy all of the things.
Right.
It's a great way to, I'm going to say practice backpacking, but like figuring out your, like, do you know how to read a map? Do you know how to navigate the trails? Do you know how to
Hmm.
read all the things? Like, it's a great way to like test yourself before committing to that longer thing. And generally speaking, because of all those things, your recovery is going to be faster. So like Mike and I don't
Oh,
really
yeah.
get into like talking about recovery and stuff, but he and I both usually take the day after our backpacking trip, we usually take it off of work because
Right.
you're tired, you're sore, you've got blisters, you've been out in the woods for a few days, you haven't eaten real food in a couple of days.
Got to
Like
reacclimate to
you got to
society.
reacclimate to society. Like Mike, we don't really ever talk about a recovery day, but you and I usually take a recovery day after we get back.
Yeah.
You probably don't need to do that if you're just going on a day trip. Like,
Right.
so like there's all the things. Like it's just easier to do.
Well, and one other thing that I just thought of is that if you're just doing a day hike, and I don't want to say just because accomplishing a day hike in and of itself is an accomplishment,
For sure it is.
but if you're doing a day hike rather than backpacking in the backcountry, you may be able to get other people involved with it or take other people
Oh
along.
yeah.
Like our spouses have no desire to do the backpacking
Absolutely no
aspect,
desire. No desire
but
at all.
they did the day hikes with us. They'll do the day hikes with us.
Yeah,
So um there is that aspect. If there's people that want to see some of the things you see, but don't want to commit to the backpacking aspect of it, see if they'll do a day hike with you.
for sure.
Yeah.
That is a good point too that I did not really think about bringing up. But you're 100% right. Like our spouses have said repeatedly,
Hmm.
they are not going backpacking with us. They have no
Right.
desire. It does not sound interesting. It, according to my husband, it even sounds downright repulsive to think about going and doing what we do. But yeah, he went on that day hike with us out in Arizona. Like he will often
Yep.
go, like if we're just somewhere and there's a scenic
Trails or whatever. Yeah.
trail or whatever, like he will
Hmm.
go and do that with us. He ain't going out and backpacking with all the stuff on his back,
Right.
um, but yeah, that's a great point to make that there's a larger community of people that would be interested in doing a day hike. It is a much smaller group of people that want to go on a backpacking
Right.
trip.
Right. The trails would be overcrowded if it was a bigger community of people that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I have though on my notes. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that this one was as long as it was. I
We
I
had a
almost
lot to
thought
talk
this was
about.
gonna be, yeah, I thought this was gonna be a quick like 20 minutes and done.
Yeah,
So
turns out we're both a little bit long winded, but you
yeah.
know, I- day hiking, it certainly has its perks. I mean, it is not what Mike and I initially set out to do when we first started, like thinking we wanted to become backpackers, but it is certainly a part of what we have done along the way, what we continue to
Hmm.
do. Day hiking is a great way to get out into the woods. I mean, Mike and I say all the time, we just like being out in the woods and being out on the trails. I don't
Right.
always got 5 days in a row that I can take and go out and go backpacking. I got
Right.
a couple hours here and there though. And it's
Yeah.
a great way to get out, enjoy nature, see the things, stop at a scenic overlook on a longer, if you're driving somewhere and there's a scenic overlook to hike out to. If you got time, stop and look at it. Like day
Right.
hiking, it certainly has its place. It is a great way to enjoy nature. A lot of your same rules apply. It's very similar to backpacking, but way easier to get into.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just a great way to get started, and even if you are a backpacker, just to continue just getting out in the country or the backcountry, like you said, you don't have all the time in the world always. And we're not all fortunate enough to be retired or,
Right.
I don't want to say unemployed because that's not a fortunate thing, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't all
Yeah.
have the time of it allotted to us to be able to just, hey, I'm gonna go spend a week in the backcountry. I don't know how the people do it that like the one kid last year did the whole Michigan
I know.
NCT. I'm like, well, who has time for that?
I know. Well, and for the you people that are like hardcore backpackers, incorporate day hikes into your backpacking trip. Like that's what Mike and I are going to try to do this summer.
Hmm.
Like we're going to plan a backpacking trip and incorporate day hikes into it to just
Right.
be able to see different things that realistically there's some stuff that Mike and I have talked about going to see. I'm not carrying 50 pounds with me to hike up
Right.
this hill. Or I'm gonna call it a mountain, but it's not really a mountain. It's a tall hill.
It's a
But like
Michigan
I'm
mountain.
not. But I don't want to carry my pack up there. So like you can
Right.
incorporate day hikes into your backpacking trip too, to see things that
Absolutely.
you maybe wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. So like there's
Right.
different ways to like mix and match even.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to re-plan this trip.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, we've got the spring trip coming up that we're gonna be planning too. But I'm excited to look and see what this day hike option looks like. So
For sure. Me too.
yeah.
So if any of our listeners have any day hike tips or tricks that they would like to share with the community, you can always reach us on our email, which is ShawnMikeHike@gmail.com. You can reach us on our website, which is ShawnMikeHike.com, or on most of the major socials at ShawnMikeHike. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And until next time, go
Uh,
take a hike.
yeah. Go take a day hike.
Yeah, there you go. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks,
We'll
everybody.
see you in a couple weeks.